Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I'm going to make a tri-fold wallet. It's going to have no snaps, no buttons, no zippers, no closure, but everything's going to stay inside. And we're going to need some type of a fabric that doesn't fray. It could be leather, craft tech, wool. It could even be cork. And we're going to need a piece 8.5 by 11, a piece of fabric, a fusible, and this very strange looking pattern piece. And I'll put a link in the description. And when you do print this out, be sure to print it out on your computer because small electronics will not print out the pattern piece. So let's get started. This is the pattern piece that you need to print out. When you do print it out, chances are this corner is not going to print on the printer. So to fill in that space, all we need to do is have a straight line, and it's 8 inches from this corner. So just draw a line and make it 8 inches, and you're going to get this pattern. With this pattern, you will see 2 little edges. One is for the smaller charge cards, and the other one is for larger charge cards. So what I would recommend is to cut this out on the larger size first, and then we're going to test it and see how it's going to work. And then if it's too big, you're going to be able to trim off that extra and make it a little bit smaller. Cut out that pattern piece on the larger one to start off with. And on the pattern, I do have those corners a little bit smoothed out if you choose to have round corners. If not, you can cut them square. To test this, we're going to take that top little flap and fold it right to the edge. That is where one card is going to sit. The next, we're going to fold up. So the top edge matches this straight line. And this is going to be 2 pockets. If I put that card in and I can't reach it, then I need to cut it on this smaller piece. Refold so the edges match. Now when I put that card inside, you can see where it's going to fit a lot better. So you have a large or a small one that you can do. This is the whole wallet. We have 3 pockets and the wallet's going to fold. But let's start with the fabric. Now that we have the right size, we need to fuse fabric onto the back of some thin cork. So to do that, I'm going to use a heat and bond light, and I do want to make sure I have a piece that's going to fit that. Follow the directions and fuse it onto the back of your fabric. So I've ironed it onto that back, peel it off, and we're going to iron it onto the back of that cork and iron from that fabric side. Once my layers are stuck together, I'm going to use that as a template, trace out that pattern piece and cut it out. This is all we're going to need for that wallet. So I have the cork on one side and a pretty fabric on the other. That fabric's just going to give it a little bit more stability. Before I do any folding, I need to do a row of stitching from this corner around that curve and over. So I'm doing that U shape and this top piece. Now I would recommend to put your stitches at about a 3. You do want bigger stitches. They really are stronger on cork than smaller stitches. And you can always use a denim needle. I did a back stitch all the way around just so that you would notice that stitching more. And I did leave some thread tails. I want to take those thread tails and bring them to the back. Now you can use a needle and pull that thread through one of the stitches, or just put it down with some fray stop or fray check. I just don't want that thread to come through to the front. My threads are all trimmed. Now we're going to be able to fold it. However, in order to fold it, we need to do something to prevent that cork from cracking. Take a piece of your cork that's left over and try to fold it. A lot of cork, when you fold it, will crack right along that edge. So there's two things we can do to avoid that crack. Number one, soak this in water for a while until that cork gets soft, and then it's going to bend. We can also steam it with the iron. So the first fold I want to do is this little flap, and I want it to come over. So I'm going to steam this area where it's going to be folded. I'm going to put a pressing cloth over top, turn the iron so that I have a lot of steam, and steam. Give it a good amount of steam. Then while it's still warm, fold it over and just hold it down until it cools with your hands. That steam makes that seam moist so it won't crack. And we can add some clips to hold that down. The next piece is going to fold up. So it's this seam we need to steam. Put the pressing cloth and steam. While it's warm, fold it. Hold it for a minute with your hands. We just want to put a good fold in there without it cracking. And we can add a couple of clips to hold that all together. So I have that pocket going up and two pockets going down. Once this cools down, we need to do a stitch along this edge, a stitch here, and then one right down the center. 1, 2, 3 rows of stitching. I would recommend an 1/8 of an inch seam, and once again, make those stitches nice and big and put on that denim needle and it'll sew just like fabric. Once that's stitched, I do want to clean up the thread ends, so I've placed them in a needle and I'm just going to stitch a couple of stitches right through the previous row. So I've looped once, go to the next stitch, and go up 1 or 2 more stitches. That really gives it a nice finish. I do like to finish it off with some fray check because I do not want that to unravel. And let it dry, trim off the threads. Oops, I forgot to tell you, be sure to close off this one piece here so you can stitch from here and go right down. So we do 1, 2, and 3. After all, we don't want a hole in the bottom of our pocket. All the stitching is done, the threads have all been taken care of, and it really is a simple design. We do need to fold it, so we're going to steam it and fold it. The first fold will be the long side going together, and this is going to cover it. So the cards won't fall out here, and the cards won't fall out here. So give it a steam. Fold it once and twice. And if you need to, you can always give it a second steam. And we're done. My cards will fit in the top. When that's folded over, it won't fall out. And I have those 2 secondary pockets. So you can keep 3 cards, double up, have 6 cards. By using a thin cork, you can see how thin this wallet is before we add the cards. So this little wallet could be made in anything that's not going to fray. That inside fabric gives that lightweight cork some stability and still keeps it very small and very lightweight. There are a few things to remember about sewing cork. Use a larger needle, use larger stitches, and steam or wet wherever you're going to fold. And that way we don't crack the cork. A lot of quilt stores, sewing stores, craft and hobby stores do sell cork. And this is a great piece to try that project out. I'll put a link in the descriptions so that you can print out that pattern piece, but be sure you're at a computer and not a small electronic. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter, all under Sew Very Easy. I'll put a link in the description for you. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.